Hi everyone, if you can believe it, we are almost done with the semester. I hope all of you had a wonderful weekend, spending time with your families over the break. But we are about to wrap up the semester. This is our last full week of class, and you're probably wondering why on earth I have this whole gallery of cave paintings. Is because we're going to finish the semester with this whole idea of storytelling and wrapping it up because literature in its basic form is storytelling. And people have been telling stories around campfires for thousands and thousands of years. Art was the earliest form of sharing these stories for other people to find later. As you can tell here, it did start with like the cave drawings, and then you have the hieroglyphics of the Egyptians and whatnot. A lot of the cave drawings started with depictions of either hunting or rituals. Those were probably, just very important parts of their lives because obviously they were a hunter gatherer society, most of them, and they were probably just like sharing their hunting victories. Like we still do this to this day. My brother went hunting recently. He is a big deer hunter. Sorry if you love deer. And I had called his wife about something, and she said, "Oh, your brother, he shot a deer with a bow and arrow. It was his first time, and he had to tell me in graphic detail everything that happened because he was so proud of himself." They do eat the deer meat. It's not like he just shoots the deer and that's it. Like they consume it. Again, sorry if you're vegetarian or anything like that, but it just makes me kind of wonder, while people were making these cave drawings, if they were like, yes, look, I got it, and can't wait to tell people all about what they had done. But our stories do make us who we are, and there is like a very distinct timeline over what how our stories evolved. So again, you had the primitive cave art, cave paintings. In 1000 BC, you start to see the ancient Greek myths being recorded, or at least passed down orally, traditions starting that. In about 700 BC, the first printed Epic of Gilgamesh is carved into city walls. And it's a really interesting story. If you kind of like ancient literature and studying ancient literature, I highly recommend it. I studied it in grad school. It's Sumerian in nature. It's referenced a lot in Babylon. And what's really kind of cool is that, so it's Middle Eastern in nature. And it does mention an epic flood that happened in that area, around the time like that biblically Noah would have taken place and whatnot. And so there's a lot of societies and cultures that do record a massive flood happening right around that time period. And it was in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one of our earliest printed recordings from that time period. So, yeah, if you have time, they do have printed books of it, translations, obviously. I highly doubt any of you are highly proficient in Sumerian, but if you are, that's awesome. We start to get into written storytelling. We have the Bible, Shakespeare. We had the invention of the printing press, so things can be printed and shared. 17th century is when we start really getting a lot of our fairy tales. A lot of them were French in origin. Modern newspapers in the 1700s. Then we start getting pictures, photographs, not just drawings. Of course, we have pictures and whatnot during these time periods and paintings and mosaics and all these wonderful pieces of art. But then we start getting pictures in about 1826 is when photography started. So then it just keeps on developing from there. We get magazines in 1939. Network television is born. Before that, we had radio, of course. We start getting interactive storytelling with video game consoles, which started in the 1970s. Music videos starting in the 80s. MTV is as old as I am. So I hope that you would say it's not that old, but it's okay if you do say that it's old. In the 21st century, we start getting things like blogs, Twitter, which is now X, Facebook, Instagram, social media. We did not have that in the late 80s and 90s and whatnot. That is a relatively new, like if you look at the broad history of communication, social media is something that is very, very brand new and we're still trying to figure out. We have virtual reality now. We have an Oculus, and it's really fun to watch over Thanksgiving, I got one of my brothers on the Oculus, and we have that plank game where you go up to the top of a building and walk out on a plank. And I may or may not have pushed him to make him fall off the plank, but it's part of storytelling now. So we also have movies. I mean, movies started early 20th century, where we started having the talkies, or actually we started with silent pictures, moved to kind of talkies, and then progressed from there. So movies are definitely a part of our storytelling story here. And so I just want you to be thinking about that, just that history, how we came from cave paintings to virtual reality and video games and social media, and how we communicate our stories, to our friends, to other people, the legacy that we leave behind with our storytelling. I mean, hundreds of years from now, people are going to be able to go back and see these digital representations of what we have left behind. And you have to wonder, what are they going to think about that? Uh, you know, how will they interpret that? How will they interpret us as a society based off of what we've left for them to see? There's a lot of funny cat videos out there, I will tell you, and my son kind of got into the habit of watching car crash or like driving fail videos on YouTube. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. My daughter is obsessed with Bluey right now. Again, trying to process that one. It's actually a really good show. We've been watching it as a family. But yeah, we're going to take a look at a couple of short films this week. A lot of them are Disney in nature, because Disney does produce quite a few good short films, but not everything we're going to be looking at is Disney. And I just want you to be thinking, it's like, how would someone view this, 100 years from now? What does this say about us as a society? How relevant is it to my own life? Does it represent me in any way, form, or fashion? But I also just hope you have fun with it. I hope it's a little bit of nostalgia. I really enjoy some of the short films that I have asked you to watch. And yeah, just enjoy this week. Just be thinking about storytelling and how you tell your stories and how you want your story told. That's going to tie in a little bit to your final. So just be thinking about that. How would I want my story told? And what would I want future generations to be thinking about when they see my time period and see the stories from my time period, and will kind of judge me? We just finished up Othello, which was during Shakespeare's time, and we had this great discussion about, was it racism, racial, like how did people during Shakespeare's time view race, which was very different than the way we view it today. Or even kind of going into Langston Hughes's time and learning about like just how much he had to deal with racism with the Ballad of the Landlord and whatnot. It's like we see that happening in the 1920s. Is that still happening in 2020? And will that still be happening in 2020, 2120? But yeah, just deep thoughts during the last week of class. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out and ask. And I look forward to seeing your character analysis. So again, if you have any questions about those, don't hesitate to reach out at all this week. I'm here to help you in any way that I can.